Shavuot.
Shavuot.
How are you?
Okay, thank you. Enjoying the nice white outside.
Actually enjoying it, yeah?
Yeah. You know, I'm from Katan. What can I tell you?
No, that's right. I forgot about that. So what, you miss it or something?
Yeah.
That's funny. I mean, if you were in Jerusalem and you saw it like once every so often, I would understand. But
yeah. I don't know, it feels like it doesn't so much anymore. And how are you? Everything well?
Baruch Hashem, trying to do the best that we can. I don't know. My boss sent a message on Friday that we're supposed to go back, I think, like 3 times a week. I don't know why, because there's no purpose to it, but it is what it is.
All right. So do you know where we're up to? I didn't get the.
No, I don't know what they did. I don't do that with our HR during the week, but I don't think that David actually sent an email. I'm gonna send a message in WhatsApp that we're meeting.
But I think I can figure out where we probably are. We're a good place to have stopped.
I actually taught on Friday and I didn't finish. So it was so long. Let me see, where did I get up to? I got up to verse 8. Yeah. Who adino it's any. So
which one from like Tachkamani, about 8 lines up from the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna send a message in the group.
We might as well start there if that's where you're up to.
Yeah, we can start. Go ahead.
Okay. So Tachkamani. So the pasuk we just quoted referred to 2 giborim. One was Tachkamani, and the other, what was the other one? I forgot. Anyway, the Gemara is examining Tachkamani. What does that mean? Amar Rav, Amar Hakadosh Baruch Hu, God said to David, "Ha'il v'yishpalta atzmacha tehei kamani." So it's a play on words. Tachkamani is like tehei kamani, because you humbled yourself that by sitting in a low position when teaching. So you should be like me. Shani gozer gzera v'tam v'atla. Like you can, they've given you the power to decree things, to override my decrees. And Rosh Hashalishim, the pasuk ends, the head of the Shalishis. Tehei Rosh l'shloshet avot. You should be the head of the 3 ancestors. So in other words, like you're in the number 1 position. Hu adino ha'etzni. It also refers to this adino, the etzni. What's this? I mean, pshat is it's a name, but again, the drasha is k'shaya yoshev osek b'torah hayam ma'adein atzmo k'tolat. When David would learn Torah, he would twist himself like a worm. V'shah sheyotzei lemilchama hayam maksha atzmo ke'etz. So the adino is ma'adein, twisting yourself, and when he went out to war, he was hard like wood. Okay. El Shmona Me'il Chalal B'Pam Achat, stood over 800 dead at once. Like he would shoot an arrow. Shahaya Zarek Chait, Ma'pil Shmona Me'il Chalal B'Pam Achat. He would shoot 1 arrow and kill 800 people at once. And then he would like say, "Oh, what about the other 200 that I shot at?" The pasuk in Eicha refers to, in the good times, one of our soldiers could chase 1,000 enemies, right? So David could only, according to the drash of this verse, he only killed 800. So like, what happened? How come I'm not? I can't kill the other 200? So the voice, the heavenly voice says, "Rak b'dvar Uriah Hachiti," except for criticizing him for the matter of Uriah and Bathsheba. So that's why. Like that's the answer. It's like you're only 80% good. You only get 80% of this bracha because of your misstep with Bathsheba and having Uriah killed, basically. Okay. So getting back to excommunications. Amar Rabbi Tanchum Bered Rabbi Chia Ish Kfar Akko Amar Rabbi Yaakov Baracha. Rabbi Tanchum said, Amar Rabbi Sinai, in the name of Rabbi Sinai, Amar Rabbi Tanchum, Amar Rav Huna, Amar Rav Huna L'chudei. Whoever said this, unclear who said this. Tell me Shenida Lichvado. If you have a student, like a Talmid Chacham, but not the teacher, but one of the students who excommunicates somebody else as a response to being dishonored by that person, so menuda l'rav niduya nidui, then that works. That counts. He's entitled to do that. Menuda l'rav niduya l'talmid. And if someone is, now we have dealt with like general excommunications, but here we seem to be talking about being excommunicated from a certain person, right? So like if you insult me, I'm going to say like, you're in cherem to me, right? You're excommunicated from me, meaning I'm punishing you by not permitting you to have contact with me, and that applies to my students also, right? If you're excommunicated from me, you're excommunicated from my students. Now, but menudel talmid ain't a menudel rav. But if I excommunicate you from me, that doesn't mean you're excommunicated from my teacher. So it's only those like below me in the hierarchy. So larav hu deina menudel. So that implies that, like, does that mean that you're excommunicated to everybody else on my level, or just to me, right? So by saying that, oh, to me, but not my rabbi, not my teacher, means that implies that everybody else who is on my level, you're also excommunicated to. So what kind of what did you do that you got this kind of excommunication? Even related to Shmaya, if it's something that you did that offends God, as it were, right? That is disrespectful to God, and that's why I put you in cherem. So it's like nobody is, God's at the top of the hierarchy, right? So it's like, if you're excommunicated because of an offense towards God, then everybody is God's student, right? So that means you're excommunicated to everybody. So it must be something else. We're talking about where I excommunicated you to me because of some offense that you did to me, right? Some way that you impugned my honor, right? So then it's just that implies that it's not just to me, it's to everybody else except those who are my teachers or on a higher level than me. But that implies, reinforces the brisa that if I put you in cherem, that to me, then that is because of my honor, right? Because you impugned my honor in some way, then that is a valid reason. This rabbinical student, right? One of the talmidim, can enforce this, can make a determination, a legal determination in something that is clear to him. Here's an example. There was a student, that his reputation was that he was hated, right? He had a bad reputation. So what are we going to do? Should we excommunicate him? But he's an important person in the community. It's like people, he may be only at the student level, but maybe where he lives, he's the authority. That's where people come to learn Torah, right? So that's going to be a detriment to the community. But if we don't do anything, it's a chil Hashem, right? We got this jerk who is carrying on as a teacher of Torah. So he told Rava, "Midei shami alach bahad. Do you hear of any solution to this kind of problem?" He answered, "Hachi amar Rabbi Yochanan, so Rabbi Yochanan, my dichsiv ki sisei kon yishmeru das, v'Torah yivakshu mipiu." The Torah says, the Navi says, the lips of the Kohen will guard knowledge, and they will seek Torah from him. Ki malach Hashem tzvaosu, because he is an angel of God. The interpretation is im dam harav malach Hashem, only if the teacher is like an angel, like if he's has a pure heart and good, he's angelic. Then yivakshu Torah mipiv. Then it's appropriate for people to learn Torah from him. Love, and if not, well, yivakshu Torah mipiv. Don't send people to learn Torah from him. So Shamte Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda understood that it's fine to excommunicate this person because he was a jerk, even though people would no longer learn Torah from him. And in fact, it's better if they didn't learn Torah from him, because it's not, the implication here is clear that that Torah is suspect, right? That's not real Torah, and we're fine with people not learning from you if you're a jerk. The end of the story is Rabbi Yehuda became ill. Also, so the rabbis came to check up on him, to visit him. And this student who he had excommunicated also came. And Rabbi Yehuda's son come into the room. He laughed. Amrle, so the student says to him, Lo mistayach teshamte lo gavra. It's not enough for me, not enough for you that you excommunicated me. Ela chuchei nami chayich me. You're also laughing at me. Hey, so he said, "Love I'm not laughing at you. Ela d'chiazalna lahu alma, but I'm laughing because when I go to the next world, b'dicha dati, then I'll be happy. Even though you became a great rabbi, right? You're a great scholar, but I didn't let that sway my opinion because I disapproved of your behavior. I did what I thought was right, so that's why I'm laughing because I withstood that challenge. So Rabbi Yehuda died. Also, Levei Midrasha. So now this guy comes to the. I mean, it's unclear. Like the problem with the story is, if he was excommunicated to Rabbi Yehuda, then how come he's coming to visit him and talking to him? I don't quite get that. Does Rashi comment on this? Anyway, so Rabbi Yehuda dies, and he comes to the base of Medrash, and he says, "Surely, okay, like now Rabbi Yehuda is gone, so I want you to release me from the cherem." Amalei Rabbanan. So the rabbi said to him, "Gavra dachashik Rabbi Yehuda leika hacha delishrilach." There's no one as great as Rabbi Yehuda who can undo the cherem, because as we've seen, if to undo a previous case law, you need someone greater in number and or in reputation, in scholarship. And if Rabbi Yehuda's gone, there's nobody who can override him. Nobody here, but you should go to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, Rabbi Yehuda the prince, and let him undo the ban. So he went. Rabbi Ami. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says to Rabbi Ami, Pukayim Bedina, go see what happens. Go check out, the details of the case. If it like seems appropriate to undo the cherem, sure, like go ahead and do it. I Rabbi Ami Medina. So Rabbi Ami looks into the case. So he wanted to release him. Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani al Raglav Yamar. So Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani got up and he said, Rabbi Lanagu Chachamim Kalas Rosh Meduya Shalosh Shanim. The case. This case will be discussed in a moment, but there was a case where the maidservant in Rebbe's house, we're on at the top of Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, about close to the middle width lines, not quite there, about 20 lines from the top. So this maid servant of Rebbe, she put somebody in cherem, and we'll see that story in a minute. And it took the rabbis 3 years to decide to undo it. So in other words, like Rabbi Yehuda just died, and you're already undoing his cherem. No offense. Yehuda, like let's not be undo his. I'm Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera says, "My dekan." So how do we take a look at what just happened? That this old man who is Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani, that just today he came to the base medrash. Like the first time he's here in years, and he happens to be here, and he just happens to be able to give testimony about a relevant matter. So it looks like the coincidence is too great. We must listen to Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, who protested releasing the ban. Lo Sharlei. So Rabbi Nasi did not release it. So the guy who's under the ban, he leaves. He's walking along. A bee comes by and bit him on his penis, and he died. They brought him to bury him in the nice plot in the cemetery, the cave where they buried the Hasidim, the righteous people. Loki blew, and it's not clear what happened, but it didn't work out. Like they couldn't bury him there for whatever reason. And then they brought it to the barricade of the judges, and then it worked. Okay, so in other words, he was. It kind of, there was a sign from heaven that he wasn't, he was still a great scholar, but don't give him so much honor to put him in the cave of the Hasidim. And why was he accepted there? The other Rabbi Eli, because he ruled like Rabbi Eli, the Tanya. Rabbi Eli Omer. Rabbi Eli says in Roa Adam Sheishram Iskaber. If a person sees that he's being tempted to sin and he's going to fall into that temptation, Yelech Lamakom Shein Latina. So he should go to a place where the people don't know him. Wear black, he's not and wrap himself in black. You have to do what you got to do, and at least do it, where nobody recognizes you. And don't let God's name be desecrated publicly. So I guess the implication is that even though this guy was a great scholar, he was tempted to sin, but nonetheless he followed this statement that if you're going to sin, you should at least do it privately, so that and not publicly as a religious leader. So that's why he was, at least he had that merit, and that's why he was accepted in the burial cave of the judges, even though he didn't get the burial cave of the Okay. Shivcha Shabesh Rabbi, what's the story of the maid servant in Rabbi's house? Mahi, what's that story? The Amsa Deve Rabbi Chazise Lo Gavra, she saw this guy, the Havamachi with Noagano. He was beating his son, his adult son. Amra, she said, the Haveu Gavra B'Shamta. That person should be excommunicated. The Kavir Mishum with Neighbor because he's putting a stumbling block in front of his son. In other words, if he's beating his son's going to have to defend himself. He's going to end up hitting his father, which is a violation of Kibbutz Avim. So she said, let him be put in cherem. And the Tanya, and we have a brisa of Leif Neiver, there's a brisa that refers to this, that she must have heard, that refers to this specifically as a violation of Leif Neiver. Okay.
Is there a connection between like not burying somebody's in a place and cherem?
Doesn't appear to be. It's like
Now, do you not accept it in some way?
Yeah, from the language of the Gemara, it seems like it wasn't. It's not clear why he wasn't buried there. It seems like things didn't work out. Like, the cemetery gates were locked if he got there, or something like that. That's my reading of it.
It wasn't like he didn't merit or something, or.
Well, the underlying moral of the story is this happened because it merited, but it doesn't sound to me like they decided that he was only worth this. It's like they were shown, they were guided that
Okay.
way. More stories. Reish Lakish Hadamintar Pardes. So Reish Lakish was the watchman of the north. Also, somebody comes by and starts eating figs from the trees. What do they call us? So Reish Lakish starts yelling at him. Well, Ashkef, they didn't pay any attention. Amar, Lahabeyahu Gavra B'Shamta says, Reish Lakish says, you're excommunicated. Amar Lay, so he said, Hadarabba, Lahabeyahu Gavra B'Shamta. I'm excommunicated, you're excommunicated. Okay, so I stole from you, right? I ate your figs, so I owe you money for the figs. But that's no reason to excommunicate me, right? So you exceeded your Also, so Reish Lakish comes to the Beit. They said to him, Shalom Nidoy Shalchayna Nidoy. He was right. You're excommunicated, not him. You acted, too strong. My time. Okay? So, now what do I do? How do I don't even know who the guy is. Zil Gabi Delishra. So they go Paul and ask him to take you out of Cherem. He says, I don't know who he is. He's a stranger. Okay, so then go to the Nasi, go to the leader of the community, and let him release you from the excommunication. Tanya, because of the rice, and you do any of them. If somebody puts you in cherem and you don't know who it was, you can go to the court. You have the basically who sings. Don't put him in the cherem. Ella Omer Lo. You put him on on administrative leave, save your honor and stay home. Don't come to the base. Because of this arc, if he continues to sin, then you put him in cherem because it's a chilul Hashem for the head of the base team to be a habitual offender. Upliga the Reish Lakish, and this disagrees with Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish, Talmid Chacham Shesarach, Eimid Al Nehasya, a Talmid Chacham who sinned, you don't publicly excommunicate him. Shinamar, the Hashal, the Hayam, the Hashal.
Cove, is there something you can do about the sound? It's like waning in and out. There's a little bit of feedback.
Is anybody else hearing that?
Yeah,
I can't hear you.
it's very difficult to understand you.
Oh, let me try a different device. And hold on 1 second.
Maybe if you have a headphones with a microphone.
Yeah, let me try that. Hang on, I'll go get.
Awesome. And tell that Miriam's in charge.
I think Miriam's always in charge.
No.
There was a woman who walked into school last week with hair just like yours. I thought it was you, Miriam.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny. I can't remember the last time I was in shul. So it was not me.
My daughter has hair. She has her hair colored
Like that?
Similar, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice color. Not natural either.
It's not as long as yours, but it's
Yeah, mine is like a little ridiculous now. I'm having a hard time letting go.
How's this? Is this any better?
Much better.
Much better. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. Okay, so
somebody who puts somebody who he doesn't know into cherem, or we're talking about somebody who doesn't know who put him into cherem.
Someone puts you into cherem, but you don't know who that person is.
But how do you know you're in cherem? Somebody tells you?
Well, like here's the case of Reish Lakish, right? Some stranger comes along and, Reish Lakish insults him and he puts him in cherem. And the other guy, the stranger, puts Reish Lakish, says, you're in cherem. But then Reish Lakish doesn't know who this guy is.
You have to be told, because otherwise how would you know?
Yeah, but you don't know where to find the guy. Like, you don't know who he is.
You should have to identify yourself before you put somebody in cherem, it seems like, It's like...
Yeah, it seems like anybody can put anybody in cherem. It seems rather chaotic, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it depends what platform you're using. If you're on Twitter, it'll tell you you're blocked. If you're on Facebook, you have no idea if you've been blocked.
Right, there you go.
Oh, that's a good one.
You don't know about it.
Yes, good analogy.
Right.
Good analogy. Okay. Marzutra chasida ki michayev tzurba mirabanan shamta. Marzutra, when he put somebody in cherem, bereisha meshames nafshe. First, he put himself in cherem, v'hadar meshames l'didei, and then he put the cherem on the students. Ki hava ayel bush pizeh, and when he would go home, shar leil nafshe v'hadar shar leil l'didei. Then he would first undo the ban on himself and then on the student. So
put yourself into cherem. That doesn't make any sense.
You got me. This is just getting stranger and stranger. Yeah, right.
Making a neder.
So we saw yesterday in the daf that actually there were a number of people that felt that they had not behaved appropriately, and they put themselves in nidui for a day, so that they would recognize that they had to themselves that they had done something that they shouldn't have done.
I see. Okay.
So to me, it sounds like the same here.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Rav Gidel said in the name of Rav, Talmid Chacham mendadel atzmo reifel atzmo. Talmid Chacham can put himself in cherem, and he can undo the cherem. Amar Rav Papa Tesili, I've got reward coming to me. So Shamisi Tumar Rabban Leo. I never put anybody in cherem. So it seems, like I said before, it seems like this has gotten out of control. Like everybody's putting everybody in cherem. Ella Kikam Chayev Tumar Rabban Sham Tahechi. So just because you're not just because you never did it, it can't be that nobody ever insulted you or nobody ever deserved it. So what did you do? Kiha, this is what he did. Marava Mimnu Anegida Detzurmer and Rabana. They actually gave lashes to students who went off the derech, v'lo mimnu hashamta, but they didn't vote to impose the cherem. Okay, so that's he must have beaten them instead of putting in the cherem. Okay, well, no comment. My shamta. What is this word shamta? Amarav Shem Misa. So it's like a play on words of the name of death. Ushmuel Amar. So it's like a kind of death, right? It's a social death.
No, it's not Shem. Oh, it says Shem here.
That's what my Gemara has. Amarav Shem Misa.
Okay, so yesterday we said Sham Mita there.
Oh, Sham. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that could you could read it that way too. Ushmuel Amar, Shmuel says Shemama Yia, or like it should be really Shemama Tehe, Shamta. It will be a destruction. Romanya Be Kitichya Betanura. So it affects a person like fat on the sides of an oven. So in other words, like it gets absorbed by the oven. So the same way, this excommunication kind of gets absorbed into you and has a lasting effect. Upliga Reish Lakish, this is he's argues with Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish Kashem Shenichneses Masayim V'Arbaim Mishmanei Barim, just as a cherem enters your whole body, your 248 limbs, which is like the tradition, the Gemara's view of like all of your limbs. Kach Kishihi Yotza. It also leaves your 248 limbs. Because when it comes in, so the word cherem is 200, has those letters, reish mem ches, 248. Cherem b'gematria masayim v'arbaim u'shmona yotza, and the cherem leaves you. Berogas rachem tizkar. The pasuk says, in your anger, God, remember to be merciful, right? And Rachem is also Rachem b'gematria hachi havu, and Rachem is also the same letters in the same gematria, 248. Amar Yosef says, Shadei shamta agenusa dechalba. If you put a cherem on the dog's tail, v'ihi didavda, it'll do what it's supposed to do. It'll work on a dog. There was a dog that was eating all the slippers. But they didn't know, like, who's chewing up our slippers. So they said, whoever is doing this, whoever is chewing up the slippers, let him be in cherem. Why they thought it was a person is a little odd. And what happened was the dog's tail caught fire. So, in other words, this anonymous cherem even worked on a dog. It's a very strange story.
Woo! Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, okay. I would have gone to the dog first, right? Like, who's chewing the slippers?
Well,
Hello, it's a dog.
No, it's that this is whether the cherem is actually a social ostracization or has some magical impact,
Yeah. Well, that's what we're getting into, right? That the cherem, it gets right into your bones, is what it's saying.
Right,
it's like, yes, it's socialized, but the effect of it, and symbolically somehow or whatever, even if you put it on the dog will be damaged.
Well, I don't know if it's symbolic. I think it's like a tangible, they're talking about some kind of.
Yeah, it does seem to be going that direction. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Hahu Alma, there was this strong man. He was harassing a Talmid Chacham. Also coming to Rabbi Yosef. So he came to Rabbi Yosef. Amalei, he said, Zil Shamte, go put him into cherem. Amalei, he said, I'm afraid to put him into cherem. He's going to beat me up. Amalei, Shekile Pesicha Ale. So apply a Pesicha, like a written excommunication to him, and then he'll be afraid of you. So it says, I'm even more afraid. If I put it in writing, he's really going to beat me up. What you should do is take the written excommunication, put it in a barrel, and then bury it in the cemetery. Vikari Bay Alpha Shipure Barbain Yomin, and blow, or not bury it, but I guess put it in the cemetery and blow 1,000 shofar blasts over 40 days. He went and did that. Pakakada Umis Alma. Finally, the jar burst and the strong man died. Okay, well that worked. My Shipure. What's his idea of using a shofar in excommunication? So it's interesting, right? Because this kind of folkloric tradition definitely took hold, right? That you use a shofar to, if you remember my impression is from like plays like the Dybbuk, right? That the shofar, and I think it was that play is based on reality, right? That to play these magical games, as it were, the shofar is instrumental. So why shouldn't Ephraim be mentioned?
It's also to tell everyone that it's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to publicize. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here he buried it. He didn't. I mean.
Yeah, but we're asking like why use the shofar in the ceremony?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Shen Ephraim, it's another linguistic reference. The shofar and Ephraim, that he gets paid back through it. There's a kind of a linguistic reference there. My Tavra, why do you blow a shavarim, the broken blast rather than the long blast? Tavre bate rame, because the illusion, linguistic illusion, is it'll break, tall buildings. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Kol shemakom shenosnu chachamim beinam, o misa, or wherever the rabbis kind of looked askance at something, then either death or poverty happened. Okay, very cheerful. Okay, so now we're done with that section, and we're back to the Mishnah, which had discussed, haircutting and laundry and things that you can do. So with the exceptions to people who can do, people who are exceptions to the rule of not doing any of these things during Chol Moed or as an oven. The Nazir or the Mitzorah who finished their period where they can't cut their hair in the period of Avelus or in the Chol Moed, there are exceptions. They can cut their hair because they didn't have a chance to do it beforehand. Are we talking about where it worked out that is the exception only because they didn't have any time, they didn't have a chance before Yantiv to cut their hair? Or is it like even if they had time, but since they came out of their period of Nazirus or Mitzorah on Erev Yantiv, let's say, even if they had an hour to cut their hair, if they didn't get to it, then they can still do it on Chol Moed. Well, that's the question. Amar Lai, and here we said we have a brisa. Call Elush Amar Mutar Moed. All these exceptions that can take a haircut on the Moed, only if they didn't have a chance before. If they did have a chance, then they can't do it. Nazir and Mitzorah, but Nazir and Mitzorah, Alpha Pisha Helam Tanai Mutarim. Even if they did have a chance before, they can still do it. Why? Shalo Yashu Korban Osean, because there's another factor here. We want them to be able to bring their korban on time. They owe a sacrifice, and we don't want to delay the sacrifice. So that's why and that's predicated. First, they have to cut their hair, so therefore we'll let them cut their hair even if they had a chance before Yasuf.
But the Nazir has to, the cutting hair is part of the ceremony at the end, right?
Right.
But the Mitzorah is not, and the cutting the hair is not part of that ceremony, is it? You just can't cut your hair when you were. I mean, is that right?
Is it part of the ceremony?
Part of the ceremony. I don't think I don't know. I mean, but the hair that.
This doesn't have to do with the ceremony. It has to do with the fact that you can't offer a korban unless you have your hair cut.
Really?
Yeah. They have to be in presentable.
I see.
Second.
So it's a kavod issue? I mean.
I would say so.
Sounds.
Hang on 1 second.
Possible. I know the Nazir, he cannot cut his hair while he's a Nazir, right? I mean, that's part of being a Nazir, right?
No,
Right.
And
no,
then,
no. V'haya is talking about mitzvah. V'yom hashvi'i yigalachas kol saro. On the seventh day, he cuts his hair. Blah blah blah. V'yom hashmini yikach shnei kvasim tmimin. On the eighth day, he does the korban.
okay, all
So
right.
it does. So it is part of the. At least that's for the mitzvah. And then the nazir, I think,
The Nazir, sure.
definitely is a haircut. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Tana, we have a brisa. A kohen v'avel mutar b'giluach. A kohen and an avel can cut their hair on Chol Moed. Now, a kohen, you'll recall, if it's his mishmar, if he's a member of the weekly shift, then he can't cut his hair during that shift. Same as Chol Moed. You want him to come in looking presentable, so he's supposed to cut his hair before the week starts. So therefore, they said no cutting your hair during the week. Same idea as Chol Moed. We want you to look presentable for the Yom Tov. That's why we don't let you cut your hair during Chol Moed. So a kohen whose week ends during Yom Tov, so he wasn't allowed to cut his hair before Yom Tov. So he can cut his hair on Chol Moed, and the same as an Avel. If he became an Avel and he couldn't cut his hair before Yom Tov, he can cut his hair on Chol Moed. So what's the case of the Avel?
What happens when Yom Tov is when the Chol Moed is Erev Yom Tov?
So that's what we're going to get into, right? So what are we talking about here? So if you have an Avel who's finished his Avelus on Erev Yom Tov, like it's the 8th day is Erev Yom Tov, that's not it, because that he should get his haircut on Erev Yom Tov because he's no longer an Avel. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about when you finish your Shiva on Friday, then there's Shabbos is the day after your Shiva. That's when you would ordinarily cut your hair, but you can't because it's Shabbos. And then the next day, Sunday, is Yom Tov, right? So that's a case where because of your Avelus, you can do it. Erev Shabbos, but wait, but you could have done Friday afternoon. You could have cut your hair. That we rule like Avashal that makes us Hayom Kekulo, that the 7th day of Avelus, like part of the day, completes the whole Shiva, right? So you're done after an hour in the morning. So you got the rest of the day to cut your hair. You're no longer an Avel. But the rabbis even agreed with Avashal. Like ordinarily, the rabbis say, no, you got to do the whole 7th day. But if it's a Friday, and it's a Friday which is Erev Yom Tov, a Friday which is the day before Shabbos, which is the day before Yom Tov, then mutar l'galech b'erev Shabbos. In that case, you can take the haircut on Friday, even though technically you're still an Avel. And that's in order to not look like a mess. So the Gemara answers, Lotzricha, what are we talking about? Shachol Shvi Shalolios Shabbos Erev Regel. That the last day of your Shiva is on Shabbos, which is Erev Yom Tov. Okay, so on Friday it's too early; it's only the 6th day. On Shabbos it's the 7th day, but it's Shabbos you can't cut your hair, and then it's Yom Tov. So not your fault that you look a mess on Yom Tov, and you can go ahead and cut your hair on Chol Moed.
I think nowadays there's at least an Ashkenazim, you're supposed to wait till Shloshim or something is over to cut your hair, I think.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, that sounds right. That's what seems to be what people practice.
Yeah, but here it's assumed that, and that must be much later.
I suppose, yeah. Tanabara, several lakavashal. So the Tana of our brisa follows Abashal. That makes us a Yom Kukula. Diamar makes us Yom Kukula. Yom V'Yom Shvi Olol Lakan. Oh, that's what it is. That the Shloshim is over. Yes, exactly. The Shloshim is over because Yom Tov cancels the Shloshim, right? Yom Tov interrupts any Abel, right? So Shabbos is your 7th day, and it's also the first day of the rest of Shloshim, right? It's the first day that you're in the period of Shloshim, but no longer in Shiva, right? And then it becomes Yom Tov, and then now you're good, right? Now you're finished, right? So Chol Moed, you can cut your hair. The Kevan the Shabbos Halayavus, and since that day, the seventh day of your Shiva was on Shabbos, you couldn't cut your hair before Yantiv, so therefore we let you cut your hair on Chol Moed. And Tana Didan and our Tana follows the rabbis. They don't. They're like the seventh day is all Shiva, and then the next day is the first day of the Shloshim period, or of the Shloshim period that is no longer Shiva. So since that starts on Yantiv, Yantiv doesn't interrupt that, right? Yantiv only interrupts a mourning period that has already begun. Okay, so the rabbis would say that no, then you can't, still can't cut your hair. Because when Yantiv starts, the Shloshim period hasn't started. Now, hi Cohen. What's the story with the Cohen? Mm-hmm.
What do they do if the funeral is on Erev Shabbos, like Friday,
Yeah.
Or Erev Yom Tov, let's just say.
Erev Shabbos, that's the day before Yom Tov?
No, let's just forget the Shabbos, but if it was Erev Yom Tov.
You have a half day of Shiva, and then you jump to the end of you jump to the end of Shloshim. It's exactly right.
Yeah, the Shiva basically lasts just the afternoon or an hour or whatever.
Right.
From the funeral until Yantiv starts.
Right. Okay. That's right.
The really weird case, and I know somebody that this happened to. Her father passed away just before Yantiv, like a 3-day Yantiv or whatever, and they couldn't bury. There wasn't enough time to bury him, so they buried him on Chol Moed, right? And the Shiva didn't start until a week later after Yantiv.
I know. I think I know that.
Yeah, really weird.
Yeah.
It was.
You can't sit Shiva during Chol Moed? Or is that?
You can't. Yeah, well, because that's correct. Yeah, you can't sit Shiva on a holiday. So for most people, in most cases, the holiday interrupts the Shiva and cancels it, right? But the Shiva didn't start yet because the Shiva only starts after the burial.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that Michelle Jasper Brody, her husband?
No, I think it was Shoshana Bula. Maybe it was her too.
Yeah, Shoshana. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I think Michelle's husband died during Chol Moed, and they didn't bury it
start the Shiva
after. They didn't do the burial, I think, till after, because it was so close. So they were waiting for someone to come in. I forget what happened. And it was weird because they were in shul, but
they weren't.
We could say, yeah.
That was saying even if the burial happened during Chol Moed, the Shiva wouldn't happen until after Yom Tov.
So maybe the burial did happen, because I remember going up to them and being like, I have nothing to say to you. It's after the burial, but you're not in Shiva.
Right. So you're not an Onan either.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's just so the burial must have happened since they were in shul.
Yeah, it's kind of a
weird.
What's the word? Yeah. Okay. Hi, Kohen. What's the case of the Kohen that you can cut your hair on Chol Moed? If you want to say that he finished his shift on Erev Yantiv, so so you would have had a chance in the afternoon to go and cut your hair. Must be that he finished his shift on the holiday. So Tanadi Dan Savar, so our Mishnah says Kevan D'Tnan B'Shlosha Prakim Bashana Hayukal Mishmar Shabbos. Our Mishnah would say that what happens on Yantiv, there's no shift. All the Kohanim could work on Yantiv, right? So the Emurim Haragolim they could all do the Emurim, the innards, sacrificing the innards and getting a piece of the showbread. Commandolo Shalim Mishmarta Baregel Dami. So it's like still your shift. It's everybody else's shift too, but you too, right? It's like you still have to. It's like you haven't finished your shift yet, because your shift leads into this kind of general free for all where you're also included. Tanabara Savar, but the Tan of the Brisa would say Avagav the Shaykh Mahanach Mishmar. Even though that is the case, Mishmarte Shlimalei, but he still finished his own shift, and that he would still be permitted to cut his hair at that point, even though it's during a general shift. Okay. Rabbi's time. All the exceptions that are allowed to take their haircut during Chol Moed, same rule applies to Avelis. Tanya Asurim, but we have another brisa that says the opposite, that the exceptions don't apply to Avelus. Amar Chizda, Amar Shila, Kitanya Hacha Mutarin, when the Brisa says they're allowed, Kishetikafuhu Avelav. That's when you have like a succession of mourning periods. In other words, God forbid, you lost one relative, and then before the Shiva is over, you lost another relative. So you have consecutive Shivas. So then we lighten up the rules. Then we would make an exception for Chol Moed, because you've gone such a long time without a haircut, you must really look a mess. So Mara says, wait a minute. That's not what it says. It says all of these exceptions. It's not saying specifically the exception where you have a double Avelus. I feel So, no, 1 second. Oh yeah, feel cool. So everybody would agree the Tanya, because we have a brisa kafu avelav zachar. If you have successive, consecutive avelus, hichbid saro mekel batar. If you really need it, if you really need, your hair is really getting unkempt, then you can trim with a razor, and you can wash your clothes in water. Ordinarily, you can't wash your clothes. So, but we said about that. Rav Chisda said, the exception is only with the razor, not with scissors. So you can only do like with a shinoi. And you can wash with water, but you can't use detergent. And that teaches you, by the way, that an avel can't wash like a regular avel, like the ordinary case of just one avelus, one period of avelus. You can't wash that teaches you can't even wash your clothes in water. Okay, I think this is a good place to stop for today. Yeah, let's stop here and pick it up here tomorrow morning. Okay. Shavua tov, everybody.
Shavua tov. Thank you.
Thank you. Shavua tov.